At this point in time, I feel like there are four contenders to win the 2022 NBA championship: the Golden State Warriors, the Phoenix Suns, the Brooklyn Nets, and the Milwaukee Bucks. So to start with the Suns, I guess, I feel like the Suns are a contender because they've been one of the best teams so far in the regular season. They have the second best record, 26-7, and they did make it to the finals last year, and I feel like they're one of the most consistent and efficient teams out there. They have a set starting lineup: Chris Paul, Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, and DeAndre Ayton, and they consistently maximize every offensive possession. It feels like, they're able to generate a good shot almost every time down, whether it's a Chris Paul mid-ranger or Devin Booker or one of the wing guys getting a three, or DeAndre Ayton, who has been really good this season and has continued to play like he did in the playoffs, setting screens, knowing his role, being the defensive anchor, and rolling to the rim offensively and benefiting off of Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And I feel like they're also well coached with Monty Williams, and they don't have a lot of weaknesses, to be honest. I feel like they match up decently well against almost every team. They have defenders like Bridges to throw at other teams' best players. They have Chris Paul, who's a super smart player. And then they still have Booker and Ayton, who could still yet improve. Like, I don't think they're done developing, especially Ayton. We'll see, when they play the Warriors, which I mentioned is another team that I feel is a contender. We'll see if they get Ayton some more post-ups and they can explore that. But yeah, they also have a good bench unit. Cameron Johnson is a starting caliber player. JaVale McGee is a great backup center, who I thought was a great signing because he gives them, similar to what Ayton gives them when Ayton's not on the floor, gives them some size. Cameron Payne is a really good bench player. Shamit is hot and cold, but he's a good shooter. And yeah, I just feel like they have a lot of depth. They have a lot of consistency. They're pretty much the same team as last year, except they lost Torrey Craig and they added JaVale McGee. And yeah, they're very efficient, and I feel like with their depth and their set starting five, they're definitely going to be a tough team to knock out, and I feel like last year definitely wasn't a fluke. Okay, talk about the Warriors, who I think have been very surprising and excellent so far this season. Probably the best team in the NBA so far. The number one defense, the number four offense, 27-7. I think the biggest reason has to be Steph Curry, who is playing very, very well and, is proving a lot of the doubters wrong in that he couldn't carry a team. And it's not like other superstars. He's not always on the ball. He's not always creating for his teammates with passing. He's creating for his teammates with his movement, by going around screens, with his gravity, with his three-point shooting threat. And that, combined with the amount of smart players the Warriors have, especially Draymond, makes them a very dangerous offensive team because when Steph is scoring, him and Draymond have such great chemistry, whether it's in handoff actions and pick and rolls, and their offense flows so well from, whether it's a handoff into a pin down, it just flows well, and it seemed that they found the right balance, where last year they had guys where they didn't really have the time and they weren't really able to implement the system fully, but this year it's totally different. Feels like everyone understands the system. They've brought in some very interesting role players, whether it's Gary Payton, who's just been incredible defensively, or Otto Porter Jr., who gives them size and shooting, or the development of Jordan Poole as someone who can give them some scoring. And then defensively, they have so many different looks, whether it's a zone, whether it's a creative defense, and at the center of it is Draymond Green being one of the best communicators and defenders overall in the NBA. Just his ability to do almost anything defensively. And then I mentioned Gary Payton, Wiggins, who has developed into a guy who is a really good defender and takes that part of this game seriously, and then can still give you solid scoring offensively. And then they haven't even brought back Klay Thompson, which is one of the biggest X factors so right now in the NBA because, obviously he's been out for 2 seasons, but, you would assume that the shooting is still there and he's still a very smart player. So, yeah, I think the Warriors have looked very good this season, and they're also bringing Clay back sometime soon. So that's pretty scary. Okay, and then the Bucks. The Bucks, they're obviously the defending champion. I think their case this year is pretty similar to last year because their team this year is very similar to last year. I think the only change is PJ Tucker is gone. Brook Lopez has been injured with his back, but he should be back before the playoffs. And then they now have Grayson Allen and DiVincenzo, who is now healthy, who wasn't healthy in the playoffs. And yeah, I think Giannis gives almost every team. He gives every team's problems. There really isn't too many players who can match up against them, and there's no player that you can play against to prepare playing against Giannis. His impact offensively, how last year you felt he figured it out, being more of a screen setter, being a roller, and capitalizing that way, and then his playmaking getting a little bit better every year. His free throw shooting, we'll see how that goes in the playoffs, but he obviously had the great performance in the closeout game, 50 points to close out the Suns in Game 6. And then defensively, he's almost everywhere. He's able to anchor a defense, and he's one of the best help defenders in the NBA. You also have Jrue Holiday, who might be the best perimeter defender in the NBA. If I think about a matchup against a team like the Warriors, you think you can have Jrue on Steph and you can have Giannis roaming, and that's not something the Warriors have seen yet. I think they play in January, those two teams, and that should be interesting. And then, yeah, offensively, they have Giannis, they have the Middleton-Giannis pick and roll, and they have the confidence and the experience of winning a championship last year. So, yeah, I definitely think they're still a big contender. They've struggled with some injuries so far this season, but they're still third in the East, 23-13, and I think they're very dangerous, especially with Giannis. And then finally, the Brooklyn Nets, who have also struggled with injuries and players out. They haven't had Kyrie at all, and they're 23-9. I think the biggest thing is just the talent of this team. Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, who is now coming back to play in away games, and then some of the role guys too. But just the big three, we really haven't seen them together that much. The only thing is that time that we've really seen them was that 5-game demolition of the Celtics in the first round. And, even if it's just Kyrie in away games, it's still super dangerous. Obviously, Harden didn't look great to start the season. He's looking a little bit better, especially the past 2 games where it's just been him because of the 2 other guys being in health and safety protocols. And then they have some interesting role players. Patty Mills has joined them and gives them another scoring threat, another shooter. I'm excited to see what they get from their big men, especially Claxton, because he's a young guy and he gives them something a little bit different with his switchability and athleticism. So the Nets, they're obviously, I think they're the most talented team, and if everyone is healthy, but that's a bigger if than with any other team, they might be the favorites. I looked at the odds and they are the favorites. So those are the 4 contenders. If I had to say right now, I'd say the Suns definitely 4th. I just feel that they don't really have that star like Curry, Giannis, or Durant that the other 3 teams have. But they are a great team. And then after that, between the top 3, for me, it's so close. I feel like the Bucks are sort of like the safest pick, and I feel like they're definitely going to be in there. But then again, like the Warriors, it depends on how good Clay is and if they can, if the system keeps working that well when teams have a lot of time to game plan for it in the playoffs. And then the Nets, I feel like if the Nets are fully healthy, that they would probably be the favorites. But like that's such a big if. Like there's literally no guarantee of that. So yeah, I'd say the top 3, Bucks, Warriors, and Nets, with Suns 4th. I still don't know the order of the top 3. It's so tough, but yeah, right now I think those are the 4 contenders for the 2022 NBA Championship. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to this channel for more NBA content.